Hello, welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper, and today's job is again on the Lucas horizontal boring mill. So what we have here is the crankshaft out of a Minneapolis steam traction engine, and this had been repaired by somebody else a while back, and the repair they did was just absolutely horrible, and it actually caused some other damage to the engine. We're in fact going to have to pour new babbit bearings for it, but I'm going to go ahead and get this thing set up on the mill, and then I'll explain in detail what had actually happened. All right, so just walking you through the rough setup here. I've got this piece of bar stock that I'm going to use to indicate everything in, fine tune it, because you can't really indicate over the disc on the crankshaft. It's just too much to reach over. But I set up my V-blocks. These are ground matched pair. So I set them up, dropped my little bar in the groove here, lined it up to that, got it close, and just clamped it down just a little bit to hold it in place, and I did that on both of them. Now I'm going to grab my indicator and indicate this bar and get it true, adjust as needed, and then we'll be able to lock them down. We'll be in good shape there. All right, I got myself set up here, and I've roughly found center of the bar. We're gonna check it this way, make sure it's flat, and then we'll come off the side and check for straightness. Well, that's not perfect. There's about 10 thousandths. It's about half the bar. So I'm going to try a 5 thousandths shim under there and just see what it does. All right, let's see what that did for us. We're a lot closer. And that could be as simple as a misalignment also of the angle blocks. Or the V blocks, let's just tap them, see if we get some movement. We're looking a lot better. All right, before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to check the side, and I'm going to find the center here. I'm lined up close, but I'm just going to crank it. Right about there. That's pretty close to center. And indicating this, boy, I'm pretty close to lined up there. Looks almost pretty good. Let's just see where I'm at. Yeah, we're off a little bit. 4 over. So I need to adjust that other end just a little bit. Well, one end or the other. Okay, I did a little more tweaking on it, and I am very close now. We're just gonna go a little bit more. Yeah, we're getting real close. So I'm gonna keep tweaking on it. I'm gonna get this alignment done, and then I'll come back to the top and get the top alignment done. Then we should be ready to throw the crankshaft up there. I think that's pretty good. It's definitely way better than we had for run out before. What I wound up doing was I wound up throwing another thin shim up here in my angle block, and that got me there. I'm indicated this way perfectly. I could probably throw just a little bit thicker shim in here. All right, so that made it a little worse. So I think we'll just go back to that thinner shim that I got here. And I think we'll be okay. Yeah, that's only giving me a couple thou, so over a foot and a half, so I think we can live with that. All right, so I got her on the V-blocks. Got her clamped down with some of this hard cardboard. Here's our shim. I'm probably gonna add some angle plates here just to stiffen this up with a little bit of rubber between it or something. But what had happened to this engine is it was at another show, a very large show here in the Midwest, and somebody was running it, and what I was told, this is not first-hand account, this is what I've been told by like 4 different people. Somebody didn't lubricate the crank pin. They didn't put grease in it, and they took out the crank pin, just destroyed it. So they took the crankshaft out, took it to another shop, had a new pin put in. Well, whoever the shop was, I would not suggest taking it there. I don't even know who it is, but they don't know what they're doing because they put the pin in true to the disc. They indicated to the disc. You need to indicate to the crankshaft. Now, I've heard this said 100 times, that we're not building a Swiss watch. Well, it doesn't matter. If the pin is not straight to the crankshaft, you're gonna get some wobble, and that's what's going on here. This pin is crooked, and with the bearing tight, it's doing this with each stroke. And that's what we found. As soon as we took the connecting rod off, this thing turned over so nice and smooth, but with the connecting rod on, it was binding up. We put the connecting rod away from the cylinder and set like an oak board across the boiler just to let it ride on, and you can physically watch that connecting rod back and forth. So what I'm going to do is take the boring head and just turn as little off of the OD of this pin as I can. I'm hoping we can do it with about 10 thousandths, maybe 15, just to straighten it out, and that should cure it, because that little bit, 10th thou off or whatever, once you get out 3 feet, that equates to a large amount of misalignment. So that's what we're gonna do here. So I'm gonna go grab the coaxial indicator. We're gonna come off the center of the pin here, get our 0, and then that should get us, even if it's crooked this way, we're gonna take more off one side than the other, but we're gonna take more off the opposite side on the inside. So we'll true it right up that way. All right, I gotta clean this thing up a little bit. Guys, remember, when you bring stuff to a machine shop, I'm charging the same price for machining as I am for cleaning. This is stuff you could save a ton of money on, because, you know, if we're not machining, we're losing money, so we have to charge a flat rate across the board for cleaning, machining, everything. It's just the way the business works. So you can save yourself a ton of money on these jobs just by cleaning them up a bit before you bring them in. And a simple pressure washer would have took care of this thing pretty well. So just remember that. Never bring your stuff in dirty. Save yourself a lot of money. All right, before I get too carried away here, I got my dial indicator here, and I already got my spindle close to center. I want to check this outer rim, just see how much run out there is on this disc, and that'll kind of give me an idea of what we're dealing with. So I'm going to start at top, center, roughly. All right, so I'm at 0 right now. $91, so there's 9 thousandths under what the top is. Oh, of course, I can't see it down there. I'll grab a mirror and take a look at that. Right here, we're at 85. So we got a little bit there. I'll reset my indicator so I can actually get to it. There's a 0. $86, so we're 14 thou difference here to here. So that pin's gonna be off quite a bit. 13 thou, and we come right back up to 0. All right, so that's what I'm starting with, is a crooked disc. Now we'll grab the coaxial and we'll find center on here and just check it, center, outside, and inside, just to see how much taper we really have. Not bad for the first try. We'll get that dialed in. All right, I don't know how this is possible with just minimal adjustment, so I am gonna double check my indicator here. She's traveling. That's just impossible. Well, we'll run it out to the end here and just see if that changes things, or if I have a problem with my indicator. Oh, I'm getting a little run out here. That's about as far as I dare go in. All right, this is really weird because I'm getting good readings here. I had good readings on the V blocks when I set them up. So now I'm gonna try something different. I grabbed a piece of 3/8 rod. I'm gonna put that in the drill chuck, and that's gonna get me out over the disc here to get an indicator out here. We're gonna check this crankshaft one more time, and then we'll come back, check this again, and if that's not it, then we're gonna check the connecting rod bearing and see if maybe that was where the machining problem was. I'm still not gonna, I apologize to the guy who did the job here if it's true and good, but I've seen a lot of people do this the wrong way and get them so crooked that they've caused so many problems. But let's verify that the shaft is true. And the best way to do that is either on the boring mill or a big surface plate. We just could not check that properly on the steam engine. So we're still ahead of the game by having to take the crankshaft out. All right, as you can see, it's wiggling right now, and this is not very rigid. All right, we're gonna try this again. What I did was I took my TG150 collet chuck and 1¼ inch bar stock and put that right in the TG150, and that is a lot more rigid. I mean, it's significantly more rigid. I can still manipulate it by hand, but it's looking good. All right, now I'm just gonna check it for the vertical alignment here, and we'll see what we got just in this section. This will tell us everything we need to know, and then we'll move off to the side and check it there. Just double check everything. So I moved about a foot there, and we're still on 0. Even with a little bit of bouncing from the paint and the rust here on the crank, we're good this way. We're good true height-wise. So I'm guessing my setup is all good, but we're gonna check, like I said, we'll check one of the sides here. All right, we're set up on the side of the crank. I got her zeroed. Let's just run her out and see what we got. So over the course of a foot down the side of the crank here, 1 thou. I think we can rule out that this crank is not straight to the table, straight to my spindle. So, and I didn't unclamp, didn't change anything, so I think we're actually good here on the crank pin. So we'll get the crank connecting rod up next and start indicating on that. All right, I put the coaxial indicator back on there. And I'm really close, about 1 thou off, which isn't a problem, but now when I move the indicator in and out on the shaft, I should see some kind of difference. You know, some movement of the needle. And I'm seeing nothing, which has got me really confused because we saw that movement for sure on the crankshaft or on the connecting rod. And I'm seeing 0 deflection whatsoever. Nope, I hit the bar there, but I mean, nothing, 0. So now I got to figure out what's going on here. So here's our connecting rod, and here's the bearing that rides there. And I do see some wear right here from the bearing cap on this side, but nothing on this side. Let me flip it over and we'll take a look at the other side. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but I see significantly more wear on this half of the bearing than this half. So it's definitely not running true. Now I'm wondering if the problem is something else, not the connecting rod, because that shouldn't change when it's stroking. Even if it's a little off, it should still travel the same way. It would be the pin that would throw it off, but the disc is this surface true, and as it comes around, it's pushing it or pulling it. And then this surface, because there's a cap that goes here that contains the whole bearing. So let's measure this surface and see what this looks like, because in fact, looking at it right now, I can see a little wear and more wear. So maybe we need to just face this surface a little bit to clean this up and fix that problem. All right, so I got the indicator up here, and at this point, I'm on a 0. And when I rotate it around to the opposite side is where I'm seeing a difference, but it's only 4 thousandths. And over the course of 33 inches, which is the length of the connecting rod center to center, that's only 35 to 40 thousandths of deflection. So this isn't the problem. Now I'm starting to think the engine bed is screwed up somehow. Like the engine is crooked on to the crankshaft itself. So maybe we need to pour new bearings. So I got a call into a friend that knows more, has dealt with this before, but we all thought the crankshaft was the problem. Like totally thought it was, but it's obviously not. I mean, it's checking good, everything's measuring good, straight. So now I'll wait until he calls me back and we'll see what's going on. Well guys, I'm gonna apologize right now because there is not gonna be any machining in this video. I did not see this coming. I really thought that our problem was this crank pin, and so did everybody else because we've seen it so many times, all of my friends. What has actually happened, the guy who did this job did a very good job, and I'm actually impressed by that because I've seen so many of them crooked. But the problem is they did the crank pin, then they put the crankshaft in the engine and poured new bearings, and they got the crankshaft crooked. That's what we've determined is going on here. That's because I finally got word back from a couple different people now saying, oh yeah, they poured a new main bearings. Okay, there's our problem. That's what's going on. Nobody has given real information on this thing, and it's been kind of a crapshoot trying to figure out what's going on. So we've verified the crankshaft. I showed you guys all how I indicated, how we verified, proved everything. Pretty straightforward setup, and this was the best way to do it. You can't really do it on the engine, so doing it on the boring mill or a big surface plate is about the best way to do it. So now we'll end the video here, but we're gonna go ahead and this is bringing in, we gotta build a fixture for supporting the crankshaft on the boiler in the bearing blocks. We have to melt out the old babbit. We have to build a whole bunch of tooling and stuff and guides to line this whole thing up, and it'll all be engine specific because there aren't many 25 horse out there. Get it all true, pour new bearings, and then put it back together. So I'm probably gonna wind up doing a couple more videos just with this, but they'll be machining in those. So with that, I apologize again, and until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.